all of the best directors in the world. Every single one of those movies is at least written. And this guy goes, you know what I'm going to do? And shits all over a piece of fucking paper and makes this.
Hello and welcome to the Best and Worst Pictures podcast. I'm your host, Jake. And with me, as always, my good host, Ian.
That's me.
And joining us, as per usual, is my other co-host, Mud. How you doing?
Hey.
What is this show, you might ask? Every week, the three of us idiots sit down and review a Best Picture winner over the past 100 or so years and determines one of the best or worst pictures as compared to the other ones. And this week, we're watching the 14th Best Picture winner ever.
The best film ever made.
Because it beat Citizen Kane, and we're talking about How Green Was My Valley. So Mud has collected some fun facts, which Ian and I have not heard ahead of time. So Mud, take it away.
Thank you, Jake. So How Green Was My Valley was directed by John Ford, who was also known for directing Stagecoach and The Grapes of Wrath, actually.
Oh, The Grapes of Wrath is one that I know. And you mentioned Stagecoach before.
Stagecoach I've mentioned a couple times before. It was pretty well known for its time. Here's a fun fact for you. He really pioneered the long take.
Ooh.
And long shot.
Those are good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
He would often have his actors on location filming for really long shots against like a very desolate background. It was released on October 28th, 1941. It has a 7.7 out of 10 IMDb, 89% Rotten Tomato critics, 81% Rotten Tomato audience.
Not bad. And now, judging from the last one, I do not trust that.
The last film had a 100% rating, critics.
Yep.
So we are... I'm glad that it's high. That being said, I'm reserved still.
So first up, our leading actor is Walter Pidgeon. He was known for The Gorilla in 1927, and then the sound remake, The Gorilla, in 1930.
Now we're talking.
A, he was well known for being a pigeon, was the only thing I thought of. And then B, the only two films that you named were the same film.
No, I'm not done. He has another film. 1956 is The Forbidden Planet, which is like the sci-fi movie,
yeah,
like the
that's really
original
cool.
sci-fi movie.
I deadass thought you were going to say The Forbidden Gorilla, and I was going to lose my mind.
I would not have blamed you.
All right, so up next we have Maureen O'Hara. Really, the only other thing I could find she was in was Miracle on 34th Street, the Christmas classic.
Yeah.
But here's a fun fact for you. She was awarded an honorary Academy Award in 2014, despite never even competing for an acting award.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Just proof that if you work long enough, they'll just be like, all right, fine, here.
Here you go, you fucking idiot.
That's our Stroh's strategy. I mean, like, we used to have 30 subscribers for many months, and now here we are at almost 1,000.
And YouTube's like, fine, just go away.
Yeah, jeez.
All right, and lastly, we have Donald Crisp, who was known for The Life of Emile Zola.
Yep, I was about to say, he was in the one we just watched. Like
He was Zola's attorney.
Yep.
Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yep.
He was one of the mutineers.
Yep.
And, of course, Birth of a Nation.
Oh.
What the fuck? Wait. Shit.
He was Grant.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the good side was he was Grant, at least, Ulysses.
Yep.
Also, random fact about him, he served on the board of directors for Bank of America.
Huh.
Okay.
Very
Fuck it.
strange.
Fuck
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So let's get into the fun fact about this movie.
What you said fact.
I did say
Singular.
fact. So this film won Best Director, John Ford, beat William Wyler for The Little Foxes,
Yep.
and, of course, Orson Welles
For Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane. So let's get into it. This is the year that Citizen Kane came out, which is supposed to be the greatest film ever made, allegedly.
Very alleged.
How Green Was My Valley beat it at the Academy Awards.
Like
Yep.
in multiple categories, not just one.
We'll get into that. But I'm seeing I think maybe this is just me putting in the narrative of like a director having a grudge because I don't know why William Wyler was replaced, but I'm actually seeing a 3-horse race here with The Little Foxes.
Okay.
It also won Best Art Direction, Black and White, known today as Best Production Design.
Yep.
An infinitely easier name. And of course, in this category, it beat Citizen Kane and The Little Foxes.
Why is this not considered the best movie of all time?
I don't know. It won Best Cinematography, Black and White, beating 9 other films, including Citizen Kane.
Yep.
Donald Crisp won Best Supporting Actor, beating no one of note, respectfully. It was nominated for Best Editing, which it lost to Sergeant York, along with Citizen Kane.
Okay.
It was nominated for Best Sound Editing, which it lost to That Hamilton Woman, along with Citizen Kane.
Okay.
It was nominated for Best Scoring of a Dramatic Picture, which it lost to All That Money Can Buy, along with Citizen Kane and The Little Foxes. There were 20 nominations.
That is an absurd number.
Like, I get that
That's
sounds
wild.
new and fancy, but they're literally nominating every film that had a score.
This film had music in it. Quick, put it in.
Literally.
Sarah Allgood, an actress I did not mention, was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She lost to Mary Astor for The Great Lie, but also Teresa Wright and Patricia Kalange for The Little Foxes. Both nominated, both lost. Same category.
How do you get 2 nominations for a category and not win that category?
I don't know. Ask the Irishman.
Got him.
Uh-oh. I can't wait till we get out of these people could have been in Birth of a Nation territory.
Also, Olivia de Havilland, who was in Gone with the Wind, she's the cousin fucker.
Yep.
And Joanne Fontaine, who we just watched in Rebecca.
Oh.
They were both nominated for Best Actress. I don't know if I told you guys this. They're sisters.
You did.
Yeah.
I believe you.
They're
mentioned.
sisters.
Yep.
Joanne won.
Hmm.
Yep. Citizen Kane and The Little Foxes were both nominated for 9 nominations. They walked away with 1 and none, respectively, with
Oh.
Little Foxes setting the record for the time of biggest shutout.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
That has since been surpassed.
I believe Color Purple got 11
Color
nominations.
Purple,
Yep.
biggest shutout, 11-0.
Yep.
Which is insane.
Or 0-11.
Which is funny because we talk about the Irishman. That's 10-0. That's second worst.
Yep.
Yep.
There's others that have matched it though. But yeah.
So, yeah. To round it out, this film won Best Picture, beating out Sergeant York, Suspicion, Hold Back the Dawn, One Foot in Heaven, The Maltese Falcon, Here Comes Mr. Jordan, Blossoms in the Dust, The Little Foxes, and of course, Citizen
Isn't
Kane.
Suspicion the other Hitchcock
Alfred
movie?
Hitchcock
Yeah.
movie.
Yep.
Yep.
He got nominated 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also I mentioned this the other time too, but like when I was looking at his filmography, Hitchcock's, he makes a movie like twice a year.
Yeah.
You can't pull that off in 2021.
No, you
I
can't.
mean, you can try.
You can try, but like,
If you start at the beginning of the year and then start one at the end of the year.
yes, if you can plan it out that way, but generally no.
So yeah, this year was kind of a bloodbath at the Oscars. You had 2 films going 18 nominations.
3.
Yeah, you
like,
had 3
really.
films fighting. And of course, the best Mary Pickford fact.
Yes, I get so excited for these. Please don't make it be tied to Birth of a Nation.
It probably is.
No promises. Anyways, in 1941, Mary Pickford broke ground on what would become the Motion Picture Company House and Hospital. That's the place that was honored
This
with the
year.
Governor Award at the 93rd Academy Awards.
Yes.
Shit.
Because remember, we
Because
were watching
Bryan
them,
Cranston went,
and he
"Mary
Mary
Pickford."
Pickford, and we all lost our shit.
Yep.
We watched the 93rd Academy Awards together, and Bryan Cranston mentioned Mary Pickford, and we all lost our fucking minds.
Dude, like we weren't really paying attention because it was just
boring.
after commercial, and he went Mary Pickford, and I went, what?
He said that. He said the word.
He said the Mary
name.
Pickford.
Why did you say that name?
Why did you say that name? Stop. Brian, why did you say that name?
So yeah, the long and short of it is, when I was doing research for this film, like a lot of the sources were just, yeah, this was a movie and it came out and it won Best Picture. Here you go.
Literally.
It's based on a book. Congrats.
I cannot wait until we judge this up against Citizen Kane at the end. I really can't.
This is like, we've talked about this before. If something has a title but it doesn't have the merits to back that up, whatever has those merits is that thing.
Yes.
So Citizen Kane being declared the best film ever, but then
Losing in its own year.
losing in its own year that it came out to How Green Was My Valley. Why isn't How Green Was My Valley considered the best?
We're
then?
gonna find out.
We're
and
gonna
I'm
find
super
it.
excited.
I'm
Let's find
excited.
out.
Why
This
is
is like our,
Lighthouse considered the best film ever?
this is like our first. I would say this is our first big milestone in the show.
Yes.
Gone with the Wind. I think
Gone with the Wind was a
big
milestone too. Okay, this
Yeah.
is the second milestone. I don't think we're gonna hit another milestone until we get like Ben-Hur.
Casablanca.
I guess. Yeah, we're hitting a lot of milestones. But
Because
I think
Casablanca is like the romance movie.
we will be right back
Let's
after
do
we
it.
watch How Green Was My Valley.
hours.
More like after 10 seconds. How Green Was My Valley. Now, I don't have a lot of notes because the movie is actually really that good. Like, I just watched a
I
lot
think
of
it's
it.
mostly here's a competent movie, and then there's some things that excel and some things that don't. So
Yeah.
Mm.
To start us off, why not start off with the movie started off with? Oh boy, book narration. Whenever adapting a book, people just have endless droves of narration over and over again.
I didn't super hate it.
I actually
But
enjoyed it. He had a
I-
very soothing voice.
Yeah, no, you're right. He has a good voice. I don't think it was super necessary considering what we were getting after that.
Yeah, the
was
narration
basically
didn't-
what he was saying.
Especially because it goes on for about 15 minutes. We kept track of this. There's exactly, within the first 15 minutes of film, there's exactly 2 lines, not just
Yeah.
like noises the characters make.
There's like 2 or 3
lines.
spurts of little dialogue, but not dialogue. It's definitely a weird choice. I don't dislike the choice. I don't think it was super necessary. That being said, it's not like the beginning of Thor: The Dark World, where it's like, long ago, the Dark Elves, and then he does it a second time in the film. Like, this was like, okay, I understand that he's doing this, explaining all of the beginning of the movie. Don't know why you couldn't just do dialogue for it.
Right.
And
that's-
then, you know, because the rest of the movie is not like that.
It is excessive. I'll give you that. It's
It's
15
strange.
minutes.
That's my
If you
whole
start
point.
the opening 2 minutes with the movie or 1 minute, I'm not that mad. It's like, whatever. It's cliche. It's a book. Whatever.
That's my whole point with that is like if you're adapting a book, if you're the screenwriter and you're adapting the book into a movie, you can convey the exposition scenes in scenes. That's what a
Yeah.
movie is made of. It's made of actual scenes where things are.
Whoa, slow your roll, bro.
I
Narration
know.
time.
I know, crazy, right? It's just
Yeah.
lazily throw it all into a fucking voiceover. Now, granted, yes, very soothing voice. If they picked a narrator, I'm glad they picked that one.
Yeah, it was
But,
It's supposed to be Hugh as an adult.
As an adult, yes.
It also it felt way too excessive. Like you did not.
Yeah,
even
it's
if
very
you
long.
Wanted
Oh yeah, it's long.
Even if you wanted a book narration at the beginning, you can definitely not have it that long.
I can guarantee you that not everything he said ended up being relevant in the film.
no,
not at all. No.
but I don't necessarily hit it. Yeah, I'm a big not. I hate narration, but I think this one was
I don't
Fine.
hate narration, but I do think it has its place and should be used sparingly.
It has its place and should be used sparingly. You're
but most of the
absolutely
time, it's used very incorrectly.
yeah, I
That's
know
like my
that.
biggest issue is how incorrectly.
Just
it's
because,
used.
like, if you're writing and let's say you got to turn in a script by Monday and it's like Sunday night and you didn't finish it, like, oh fuck, I better write some scenes here. Oh, there we go, done.
Alex Kurtzman,
Nice
welcome.
and quick. Yeah.
Whoa, bro, how do I know where I am if it's not big text on screen?
Oh, title cards, baby.
Can I start with something that's
We've started.
pretty good? Well, we haven't gotten deep into the meat and or potatoes.
I agree.
I really, really like the production design in this movie.
Yes.
I think
it's
that
very
might
beautiful
be
to
its
look at.
strongest suit.
The Coal Town. We
The
have
Coal Town's
we have images
amazing.
up on screen for us to talk about.
Like
The Coal Town looks gorgeous. That slope up the hill.
yeah.
Yeah.
And inside the mine, towards the end of the movie, when it's spoilers, I guess, for this 80-year-old movie.
Oh yeah, it
when
takes
it's-
place in a coal town.
Yeah, it takes place in the coal town, and in the mine when they're looking for the dad, the flooding and the wetness on the walls of the coal, everything looks so glossy and shiny
Oh,
and
yeah.
ashy. It's really, really nice. The costume design, since they don't live in a rich, affluent town, it's very commoner, cheap, effective looking clothing.
Right.
It
It's-
fits the time period of
Fi-
like
yes,
turn of the
it
century.
fits the time period. Everything in this one, because it's a very, very small set. Like they go to 3 places.
Mhm.
It's the town, the mine, the school.
And even though the school's sparing it.
Yeah,
Right.
And I don't even think it was super necessary, to be quite honest.
Oh, we'll talk about
But-
that.
Well, last week we talked about unnecessary rear projection with Rebecca from Alfred Hitchcock.
Yep.
This movie we have some awesome set design, like you guys
Yep,
saying.
the set
Everything
design's amazing.
above and below ground looked really convincing for what it
Gorgeous.
was.
Well, they
And
probably filmed it in a coal town.
Yeah.
maybe I bet a lot of that stuff was in a
30s
studio.
Coal Town still existed 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in
Which is
the
awesome.
coal mine, I think, was definitely a set.
Or sorry, 40. Yeah, definitely you can't take a camera into
Yeah.
a coal mine.
Like when his
No.
dad was dying, pinned under that weird, oddly shaped rock that was.
yeah,
just
wow,
holding him.
Jake, they didn't have a fucking perfect rock that they crushed Walter
Yeah.
Pigeon with.
No, that's my point. What are you talking about? But,
No, it's really, really impressive. The score exists. It's not super duper impressive to me personally. They overuse it a little bit, but not to the tune of Rebecca.
Dude, after last week
The whole
being
time.
just fucking bombarded with
Oh
Rebecca's
my God.
score, I didn't even pick up on this movie's score.
No,
It's
sometimes
perfect.
it was a little bit over, especially towards the beginning. They don't utilize it as well, but it gets its place and is just effective enough throughout the rest of it.
Yeah, I didn't notice the score at all. I'm being
I pay a lot of
completely candid.
attention.
I know you do. I usually don't. You know, a score is good or bad, like really good or really bad. If I
If
say
Mud
something,
pays attention, yeah, that's
if
true.
I say something about the score, that's how you know it's really either fucking terrific or shit.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Because it has to get my attention in order for me to notice it.
Yep. There is a really strong, well-developed romance between the preacher and Angharad, which, by the way, fun name, Angharad.
Yep.
But
Yep.
her entering a loveless marriage to Evans for practicality, I should say, is really heartbreaking when it happens. Like,
yeah,
that
the characters
punches
in this
you.
movie. The character in this movie is awesome, actually,
And you feel that.
Yeah,
Like, way
that-
more than you feel anything in
because
Rebecca.
that happens quite frequently. That still happens today, obviously,
Mhm.
but especially back then, it was for the good of the family because he was the head of the mine's son,
you felt for both of those characters because you can see that when he starts preaching, she's like, "Ooh, cute preacher boy," and then they eventually get a good relationship through that church, and they don't really you don't see them getting that relationship, but you believe it based off of the things that are happening, and I think that's really interesting, especially since the last movie, where we also saw the relationship between terrible character who has no name and Laurence Olivier, how you see more of their quote quote relationship developing, but it doesn't feel good, as opposed to this one where we see less of it, but it feels right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, and I think it's because of the script dynamics. 100%, the script in this movie's pretty solid. I don't want to say great because it does dump off on a lot of themes and then pick them back up, but it feels like it misses
This
a little
movie
bit of a
kind of
mark.
keeps changing what it's about, and I get it's supposed to be
Yeah.
about the Morgan family kind of splitting up, and each segment is kind of supposed to be like what happens to a family member.
Yep.
But it still doesn't change the fact that we don't really have much of a through narrative, because then plot points just kind of get dropped off. Like at the very beginning, there's stuff about a strike and a union.
Yep, and the
and
strike
they say
gets
a lot of
settled
stuff
off
about, like,
screen. Yep.
you know, political stuff. They get pretty political. They're like, oh, that's socialism.
But
and
then
stuff
they're like,
that.
"Whoa, his code, don't get too political."
Yeah, and then the strike ends, and some of the workers go back to work, and some of them don't. And it's like, wait, hold on a second. Like, time out.
We can talk about that as well. I just like the characters in this movie. Even a little kid, like, hey, good child acting.
Oh my god, great.
Solid fucking child acting. He was probably one of the brighter spots in the movie, acting wise.
Yeah.
Honestly, he was really, really good.
There's some excellent theme work with this.
I can't say excellent. I think it's just good because they drop off in the middle.
True, I will say, yeah, because you mentioned the coal mine stuff is really prominent at the start, and then it kind of
Really kind of like jump starts the movie.
Yeah. And you know what? I thought it was gonna be like a cool talk. Not cool because classism isn't cool, but like like an interesting dive into how the early stage capitalism, especially in this time period, ended up destroying and making families poor. And it could also talk about Great Depression America because the same thing was happening then.
Yeah.
And it could have been super duper interesting. And they went, oh, you know, the iron mill closed down the street, a couple, like
Over
very,
the
very
next
close.
valley over.
And what happened was they went to go work at the coal mines and they were desperate, so they were working for a lower wage and they started docking everybody's wages. Boom. Awesome. Really cool. Overinflation because the market. That's like a really, really interesting thing that you can see how it affects the family. And it barely does. And then they get hypothermia and then the strike is settled off screen.
Yeah.
And it's like right there.
Even then, half the workers don't get to go back to work.
Yes.
What the fuck happens to them?
They don't get to go back to work because the people that came over are still.
No, I know what
you know.
happened. I'm asking what happens.
Also, like, yeah, you mentioned, like, yeah, it kind of gets resolved off screen. I think the classism stuff is really awesome in it when it does it.
Yep,
but I don't think
it basically drops off after that point.
I just
No,
don't
a
think
little
bit.
back at
It
the
comes
school.
back. I was about to say it comes back at the school for quite a bit, but that seems to go almost nowhere because he goes, "I want to work in the mines," like a dumb kid.
Well,
We'll
that's
talk
why
about that.
I really don't think that this is as strong as something like You Can't Take It With You.
I agree.
This also has those strong classist themes
Yep,
in
I
terms of
agree.
like,
but that
you know,
one carries it throughout.
that carries it throughout. That's the moral of the story. Aside from being an awesome romance, I think that movie stays tried and true with what it's trying to be throughout. Whereas this one, like you're talking about, is mostly about and hitting those marks. Like the messages here, which by the way, I'm really impressed that a movie during this time amidst the Hays Code was allowed to have overtly anti-religious themes at certain parts. Like the movie flat out criticizes blind faith, both in the metaphors of working in the mine, but also in the speech towards the end in the church where he's yelling at the entire town, basically.
Yeah, but that's against bad religion, not
Ooh.
good religion.
No,
The
it
good
was-
Catholics.
Because Ianto, which is just my name with toe at the end, the religious aspects in this movie are really, really interesting, especially towards the end when I want to talk about more of this a little bit more. Ianto was like, I'm not really a big religion guy because it's a hive mind, and if you try to speak out against the hive mind, you immediately get shattered out, even if it's just discussion. And Eon Grufford, his name was Gruffiad, was like, well, yeah, I can see your point there, but, and then they got into a little argument. And the other preacher was like, blasphemy. And it's like, Jesus Christ. He was the worst character in the movie.
Yeah.
And later on, when the fucking Asgard is going to get a divorce, everyone's like,
Herod.
thank you. Everyone's like, oh, what a whore getting a divorce.
Yep.
And it's like, bro, your religion was literally founded, like, part of this religion's because a king wanted to divorce his wife.
Are they
Like-
Protestants or are they Catholics?
I'm not sure. I
So
think
potent-
Catholic
Well, if
and the
they're-
Protestants are the ones that divorce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's a Protestant thing, then I don't think the Protestants would be mad about.
Yes. And the preacher who did a really, really good thing was like, how are you going to say it's hypocritical? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
We all have our qualms. We all have our things.
I mean, even Jesus said that. We fucking Last Temptation of Christ. With he who was without sin may cast the first stone.
perfect.
Right.
Perfect. So those kinds of things, he's like, I've sinned too. Who's going to fucking accuse me?
Yeah.
Then no one said anything. He's like, that's what I thought. Because it's hypocritical. You sit here, you dress up, you come here, but you're not.
See, but that's the kind of, reasonable hot takes on the churches that the Hays Code allowed. Like, there's no scene of Ianto being like, yeah, the Pope's a puppet head and the church is molesting little boys. Like, no, that's not going in the film. I get what you're saying, though. It's pretty interesting, some of the things that because, like, I think the Hays Code kind of gets a little overblown where it's like they weren't allowed to do anything. Like I was like, oh, that kid got the shit beat out of him in school. He's got blood in his mouth. And it's like, yeah, of course he has blood in his mouth. He got the shit beat out of him. But it's like, I'm amazed they could show that in the Hays Code. But then I think, well, maybe I'm thinking like anything short of like a fucking like episode of Golden Girls.
Well, what you're thinking of too is like you're thinking of modern day PG-13 versus R ratings, where excessive or any real amounts of blood at all turns it into an R immediately.
Yeah.
I think the Hays Code doesn't gut what you're showing on screen. I think it guts your themes. Because in this, the classism theme probably ended up getting gutted a little bit because of what you could and couldn't do. And definitely the religious themes get cut and gutted because of what you can and can't do.
Yep.
I think the theme that this movie does follow through on really, really well is, like Mud was saying earlier when we were watching the movie, is the destruction of a family through the changing in times and the changing in wages in times of struggle.
It's like Cavalcade and Cimarron, where it's supposed to be about like the rise and fall of like whatever.
Yep.
But they do a better job of it because they condense it down to like a couple years.
Yes, it's
And-
like 2 or 3 at most.
And they focus on Hugh. They
Yep.
don't trail off to like fucking Cimarron's
They don't focus
wife.
on the dad and then have the dad fuck off for the last 40 minutes and suddenly
Right.
it's about the wife.
And they jump decades. Like, no,
Or
it's all
they
good.
don't kill the dad on the Titanic and then never bring it up again.
No, they kill him at the end.
They do kill him at
Exactly.
the end, but when it's like,
Yeah, but that dad
Thematically.
death is really thematically relevant.
I
Like you
agree.
see,
Because you see how the mine and
Right.
the town and the times are destroying the family.
Mm-hmm.
The mine killed
his brother.
Ivor.
Yeah, his brother.
It's Ivor. And
his dad.
It fired his other 2 brothers and made them go to America.
Yep.
One was mad about the wages, and he ended up going to America before he even
He ended
got
up
fired.
in Canada.
Yeah. Yep.
mm-hmm.
And it took everything from that whole family. He was even saying it at the end of the movie when they were talking about the divorce. He's like, this is the first time my door has been shut tight during the daytime that I knew. And that was good narration.
Yep.
Because that notion right there, we wouldn't have been able, if he just said it out loud, I'd be like, why did you say that out loud? That kind of narration, super fucking effective. I was like, damn, that hits really, really hard. And then the next scene is his dad fucking dying. And it's like,
Well, yeah,
whoa.
in that dad dying scene at the end, you mentioned how the mine literally took his dad's life, it took his brother's, stuff like that. When he rises from the mine holding his dad's body, in a way, the mine killed Hugh as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's still down there.
Yeah, he's always going to be down there.
His mother was like, oh, I see Ivor and him, and they're telling me this, and that. She took it, not the exact opposite way, but she took it in a way where they're still, they all say they're still with them,
Mhm.
but it's in a very like weird, twisted, like, it's more of a twisted thing for me.
It is.
That's- they're
It's
still with them.
super
You know what I mean?
fucked up. And
Not like, oh, the memory lives on. It's like,
No, they're
we
still
can't,
here.
we literally can't leave this town because of A, money.
and on top of that
B,
too,
like we have to, like it's really fucked up.
in
It's
terms
really,
of the
really
twisted thing, which you're talking about here, I find it really interesting how when Hugh gets the scholarship for the university, nobody else told him to give it up. Hugh was the one who chose to work in the mines.
His dad tried to convince him, and his mom tried to convince him otherwise, which
Yeah.
was really strange.
See, it kind of reminds me of the end of Good Will Hunting.
Okay.
Where, Will has the options. He can go to California to be with this girl. He can accept a really lucrative job down south somewhere.
Yep.
Or he can stay in Boston.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm going to stay in Boston. And Ben Affleck's character is like, are you a fucking idiot?
Yes.
Go, leave. This is hell for you. You're never gonna escape otherwise. Like, don't worry about us. We're stuck. We'll manage. You need to go. And I think that's the cliche with a lot of movies like this that are about like how one area is kind of like affecting these people. Actually, October Sky is an American film based on a true story about these group of kids from West Virginia who really got into aerospace stuff after Sputnik.
Okay.
And they built their own homemade rockets, and they eventually all went to work for NASA. That movie, that town is a coal town. And at one point in the movie, during the character's lowest, he starts working in the coal mines and gives up rocketry.
It's really weird. A lot of movies do the thing where it's like, let me give up my dreams and go to a coal mine. Zoolander.
Yeah.
Stops.
Yeah, but that was played on purpose for laughs. you
Also,
know?
Rocket Boys is a biopic.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But what
It's
I
kinda
mean,
weird.
what I mean by that is like it kind of reminds me of the same thing. The only difference is in Rocket Boys, eventually, like his dad and all these other people are like, "You're going to accomplish nothing if you stay here.
Yeah.
You are better than this town. You're better than this coal mine." And I thought that's what they were building up for Hugh with. And in the book that this film's based on, Hugh does eventually leave. But the movie doesn't show that. Like the movie ends with him just coming back up, his innocence destroyed by witnessing the death of his father.
Right.
And it kind of leaves it open-ended. It's like, well, what's going to happen to him now? Like,
Yeah.
I can assume that he's going to move out of the town, but like, what about his mom? Is he just going to leave his mom there?
I mean, his sister's also there with Preacher Man potentially.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little more open-ended, and I think that kind of muddles it. And I think Hugh deciding to work in the mines and that kind of never really getting a culmination, I think that's for the movie's detriment. I think it makes sense that he works in the mines because he's like, I got to go with what I know. He was getting bullied at school a lot.
And it was what his whole family did. If your whole family is doing something, you have a lot of influence.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that ultimately it was a good setup for him to initially be
Yes.
like, I'm going into the mines, but there's no payoff to it
Yep.
where
If
he
at the
changes
end
his
he
mind.
if at the end he was talking with the preacher, he's like, maybe I should go back to school, maybe
Yeah,
or
anything.
accept that scholarship.
Anything to show
Yep.
that like Hugh is able to escape.
Yeah.
Especially because it ends off with that optimistic note where he's like, yeah, the mine took everything from me, but my family's still with me. How green was my valley then? It's like, dog, you're still stuck here, though.
And you know what though? In the same vein, I don't know if it's negative. I'm going to challenge you a little bit and hear me out.
No.
When it comes to the negativity that goes through, in the same breath, sometimes persevering in the same place is also a huge reward.
You're
You know
right.
what I mean? It'd be awesome if he ended up going to the school and making something of himself. But it would have also been super cool if he could have gotten a higher paying thing near the town and also help take care of his mother and do shit like
You're
that.
absolutely right, but we don't see one way or the other.
exactly.
And I feel like the narrative more well sets up, considering like it's a thematic thing that the
Yes.
Morgans leave the town.
Yep.
I think it would have been more thematic if him and his mother left.
I always think back to that opening while watching the movie of, the coal mine having like blackened the city almost. And his monologue, I know I don't like the narration, but in the narration, he's talking about how like, oh, I'm going to leave and I'm not going to come back, screw this place. It's terrible in every way. And you see the events play out, how this family, and by extension the entire village, is completely beholden to that mine. That mine
Employs everyone.
employs
Yeah.
everyone, and it directly impacts their entire way of life and whether or not they're alive or not.
And even after the strike, they're still doing waging and people slashing.
There's still that's true of like the olden days, like those mill towns,
Yeah.
and it's true now. You like Amazon fulfillment centers, fucking like Peapod service warehouses. Like there is a grocery store online fulfillment center in the town next to my town.
Yep.
All of my friends work there. A lot of people I went to high school with work there. Their parents work there. My mother works there part-time because she has actually a job on the side and she just does this for extra money to spend at restaurants and stuff. But my point is, like, this one facility is the job apparatus for at least 80% of the people I know.
Yeah.
They come in and they exist to, like, control an area and control the people, like...
Yeah.
They're really like a lot of my friends want to quit, and obviously it's not as dire as the coal mine.
Yeah.
You know, but they want to quit because they kind of hate working there because it's shitty hours and shitty management and shitty pay. But, you know, where we are, there's nothing else for them to do.
Yep.
They're stuck there because there aren't really any other job opportunities in our area.
Some people are like, "Oh, I'll never get out of this town." That's real.
That is real.
Every time you hear that when you grew up in a smaller place, it's like, yeah,
I live in a smaller town in Massachusetts.
I live in the woods, dude. I
You-
feel you.
Yeah, you live out in the fucking sticks. But like, I live in a small town in Massachusetts, and I will say I'm definitely fucking anxious to get out because I don't want to stay in this town forever. I don't like its mentality. I don't like the to use a fucking Gen Z term, I don't like its vibe. I
Fair.
don't like the energy of that town. I don't like the people in it. I want to get out. And I can relate really hard to Hugh because, like, I was definitely considered the smart kid, you know, and I can go the route of just finding a job at one of the legacy jobs at where I live, but I don't want to do that. I want to do something more.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm fighting so hard for Hugh to
I think
get the fuck out.
I completely understand.
a really big part of that ending too is that no matter what decision Hugh decides, he is completely changed after that ending.
Oh, yeah.
After carrying, not literally carrying, but like after holding his dad's dead body whilst rising from the mine, which in and of itself has some visual metaphors there with coming out. But
You play Rise from the Dark Knight Rises soundtrack.
Yeah, literally.
Ish vosa, vosa.
literally.
That's funny.
But no, like when he's coming out of that mine and you see him visually just changed, you know that no matter what he decides, whether he stays or whether he goes off to be a smart
He's
guy
gonna
in
be
college.
broken.
I'm amazed. They I don't know how they did it. Maybe with makeup, maybe with lighting. They made him look significantly older.
They
Like he
did.
went from being like 11 to like 16 or 17.
That is an excellent
They
visual
did a
way
really
to
good job.
communicate your messages and themes visually on the actor's face. That's so cool. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate the way the movie set that up and paid that off. And I see your point with how it should have had more, like a little extra of a scene, maybe 30 more seconds where he decides.
declares that he's like leaving
Yep.
or something.
I get that, but I think on its own it still really works. So I side
I agree.
slightly more with Ian on that.
I think
it.
It's not that it doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
I think it would have worked better. However, I think this open ending is at least a satisfying enough opening ending.
yeah, I
rather
agree.
than some other movies that we watch, where
Right.
It's like,
And then it
bro, it
ends.
just fucking ends.
Yeah.
I love movies that just fucking end because you're like, that's it. Where's the rest of it?
Yeah.
I've been here for 2 hours.
As long as you take it like in the sense that, yeah, the point of that entire character arc was just so that he is now broken forever, no matter what he decides.
And I think it's really, really interesting how the hive mind of his family working in the mines and that I can't escape this town thing ties directly into the hive mind religion argument that Yato was having.
I want
Also-
to build off that real quick. I'm
Sure,
sorry,
go ahead.
Jake. Again, we're looking at visual references. Something I just noticed, and I want to tie back to what I was talking about with Ford using really nice long shots and wide shots and
Yeah.
really getting into the nitty gritty. Look at how the coal mine is perched up on the hill above the houses that are kind of being filmed at a low angle to make it look like they're looking up at it
Yeah.
as if it was some sort of god.
Yeah.
Fucking
It's
amazing
the source of
image.
a lot of their income.
It's
It's-
literally
yeah.
the center of the town. It's so
Yeah.
good. It's such good imagery.
And when you add that into the mentality of reality in the scene where, again, I keep mentioning it, but when he ascends from below with his dad's dead body,
Yeah.
there's a heaven with what you're talking about and a hell with what I'm talking about with
Yeah.
that, but they're the same thing, the mine shaft.
I really,
Yep,
not
that's
just
right.
because of the title, I really wish this film was in color because then you can really,
Ah,
you could
it would
really,
look so. If you color grade this movie,
you can make the town gray and then you have the side hills green. And as the film progresses, and the coal and the slag and the
and when it
shale and the
explodes
rubble,
at the end too.
Right.
and as the black ash just kind of begins to, you can, as the film progresses, just begin to put layers of soot over the town to really drive
agree.
home the imagery of it corrupting these people.
There are plenty of movies that work best in black and white. I think this is one that could have been in color.
This is a film that absolutely would probably be better in color.
and probably
Yeah.
benefit from the morals and themes with what it's talking. Not just because it's named green, but like from what it's
Not just
talking
because
about.
there's a color in the title.
Yeah,
Being
exactly.
simple green mean
Green,
color.
therefore color, yeah. But no, I think like exactly what we're talking about here. I think you can drive home the morals, which we already got the themes and the messages already, but like you can drive them home stronger if it were in color. And
Yeah.
the color altered as
Like
it went on.
showing how the coal mines are literally destroying the imagery.
That's another thing too. The opening has that narration where he's talking about leaving the town. at that point, at that moment, at the start of the movie, that means nothing to us as an audience.
Yeah.
It's only with the benefit of hindsight after watching the events
Do we
and watching that
understand?
file. It's like, oh my God, yeah. And now if you think back to that, you go, holy shit, yeah, no, get the fuck out of there, Chief. Like,
Yeah.
yes. But, oh my God. So I really appreciate how those kind of seeds were sown. Still didn't have to be a freaking narration monologue, but that's just me.
It's so funny because like they have scenes of people talking, but like the subtitles say like inaudible dialogue, and it's like
Inaudible
fuck me,
dialogue.
I guess.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of bad, not bad sound design, but there's a lot of blips of sound design being kind of shit.
Yep.
Like one guy gets his hand smacked and there's no noise.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird Foley mistakes.
And for context audience, we watched this on Hulu, so it's whatever version they have, which is a pretty decent version.
It was
from what I've
great,
seen.
Yeah.
very well. Well,
it had a couple little Foley issues and loudness of sound issues. Like the Foley wasn't bad, but it was too loud or too quiet. I know audio editing in this time period was hard, and I don't want to give detraction points but like when it came to certain other movies towards this time period, like Gone with the Wind, that didn't have those issues really. It wasn't all bad. There was only a couple times that I noticed it, but in the same breath, I did want to point out there was a couple little Foley issues, some dialogue. There was one scene towards the beginning of the movie where the mouth moved, but it was like a half-second delay.
it was just enough that you're like, that's
The
off.
film cut was probably delayed a little bit to the audio, and I didn't see it after that again, so I didn't think it was big enough to be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. That's more of a side note.
Yeah. Speaking of things that we never saw again, the school.
Yeah,
When he goes to school, Hugh goes to school during the middle of the film. There's like 3 scenes set there, and he's getting bullied, and they're like, we're gonna teach you how to box, and they don't really show him getting taught how to box, but then he's boxing, and then the teacher is like, you can't do that, and spanks him, and then
He didn't spank him. He whipped his back with a rod,
oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
which is insane.
And then his dad's friends go to the school and beat the teacher up.
Yep.
What my favorite part about that is like they punch him so hard that they knock him out, and then they show a shot of his body, and he's just like limp.
dead.
He looks dead, and then they never bring it up again, and I'm like,
Yeah, it just fades
So-
away after they go, Dog, guess who's not going to be a boxer? It just fades out, and it's like,
yeah.
whoa!
And they never revisit that. I mean, like the way he's shot, the way the body is posed, and the way his face looks, it's like, did he like snap his neck off of something when you punched him and like he's
Right.
dead?
I think, like, well, obviously it's not, because, like, that scene was way too light and somewhat
Oh yeah,
comedic
absolutely.
for to actually deal with a human
and
death.
there's no ripple effect for it.
Right.
So obviously it wasn't murder, but like in the moment I was like, that
It felt like it.
it felt like it, especially because of the way the shot composition was with the guy on the ground.
Yeah.
He looked like a corpse.
He straight up was splayed out.
Splayed, I think his eyes were open. Usually in movies, like if a dude's laying there motionless with his eyes open, corpse.
Also, we discovered while watching this that America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee is just God Save the Queen.
But with different words. Bro, I was pissed. I was like, why would we, as a country, go, nice national anthem you have there. Let's reskin it to be America.
Because that's fucking baller as shit. Oh, that's your national anthem? More like my national anthem.
Oh, yeah, America. And then you would be like, oh, we've never taken anything in all of history, bitch. Hold on.
Yeah, but a national anthem is not the number one subject of things
Yeah.
taken.
That's
Maybe,
not the
you know,
worst
maybe,
atrocity.
Trail of Tears or some shit. But
Yeah, exactly, but whatever. But yeah, I like how all 3 of us didn't know that until we figured it out in the movie.
I've never heard the English national anthem.
I thought it was Royal Britannia.
I think it is now.
Maybe at the time.
Who knows?
Victorian era London, who knows?
cares?
I just thought it was really interesting. It's like the Oh Christmas Tree fact.
From Gone with the Wind.
Gone with
yeah.
the Wind.
We're really hitting up these classic song facts.
It's all song facts, and I'm the one
Yeah.
who's pointed out both of them.
Woo! Big fan of song facts.
What do you guys do to point out a fact? So hurry.
Mary Pickford has invented all the songs.
So did you guys know that the actor who played Hugh was in A Bug's Life and it was like the last film he did?
That's insane to me.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's
wild.
crazy how far-reaching some of these people are. Where I look at the film they're in, and I'm like, oh my god, I've watched that film because it feels like this should be like from a time that I am not able to witness. You know
When
what I
we
mean?
watch Spartacus, we will be watching Kirk Douglas, who precedes the Oscars.
What do you? When are we watching Spartacus?
I
we're
don't
not
think it's
watching
best
Spartacus.
picture.
How did it not
No.
Oh damn,
It's
we're
such
not
a
gonna watch
good movie.
Spartacus.
It is a great movie.
I thought it won.
Ian, it's on you to recommend it for dealer's choice, though.
So, but like
Anthony Hopkins is in the remastered version as voice.
Kirk Douglas precedes 1917, the battle, the Oscars, and we watched him be alive.
1917 is not a year. I mean, a battle.
I
It's
was
a
gonna
year.
say.
The year.
1917 is
yeah.
not a battle. It's a
the
year.
war from, you know what I mean?
The movie,
Yes, the,
1917.
the battle from 1917, the movie was what I was thinking.
That wasn't really a
But
battle
it was just him
either.
running.
Conceivably, Kirk Douglas could have sat down at a premiere of 1917 and been like, "Yeah, I remember that."
Legitimately.
He would have been like,
No,
two.
he was like
Man
three.
was born before World War One.
Yeah.
Or like right in the cusp of World War One. So like it is weird to think about all these things, but at the same time, like we're gonna watch a Jack Lemmon movie, I believe,
Yes.
like sometime soon.
50s.
And we watched him in Glengarry Glen Ross, which like
Yeah.
for this show.
But like even then, when we hit like the 80s and the 90s, we're still gonna be seeing like actors that we know nowadays, and we're gonna be like, oh my god, this is so weird watching like a Best Picture Godfather, dude. Like watching the
Wow,
Godfather.
it's so weird watching Willem Dafoe be young.
Platoon. Platoon's gonna be fucking crazy.
Last Temptation. When we watched it, I'm like, wow, he looks so young.
Ian, funny you mentioned Jack Lemmon. He stars in the main role in The Apartment, which won for the year 1960, the year that Spartacus came out. Spartacus, fun fact, not nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 No, but I know what you mean, dude. Like, it's weird seeing, like, just last week when we watched Rebecca, Laurence Olivier, I'm like, oh yeah, he was Van Helsing. We've seen a movie he was in.
Yeah,
true.
for the show.
And
you
it's
know
weird because when I ever hear the name like Laurence Olivier, I'm like, yeah, a classic old school Hollywood
Yeah,
actor who's in
he was nominated for what, 9 or like 10
a
times?
lot. It was a lot. But
It's a lot.
You know, I hear that name and I think, oh, old school golden age Hollywood actor. I've probably never seen a film with him unless it was for school.
Yep.
No, we watched Dracula: A Love Story.
Now, granted, that movie is from 1979, so it's not exactly like hot and fresh.
No,
you
yes,
know?
But
not.
we're in 1940.
Lawrence
That's true.
Olivier is in a movie that was directed by the guy who directed Saturday Night Fever.
That is true.
What the fuck?
That is
Like,
canon.
when you think about things like
That
that,
should be illegal.
when you think about things like that, it's insane. A really, really young actor and a really, really like an older, more seasoned actor could be in a movie together, and we can go, "Oh my god, yeah," like John Wayne in Star Wars and shit.
Well,
And
he's like a special effect.
yes. But if you think like True Grit, Robert Duvall,
Mm-hmm.
who's also in modern day films. Don't get it, he's old in modern day films. But like when you think about that, it goes all the way back
I got
like
one
40,
for
50 years.
You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now. Lawrence
Lawrence Fishburne's-
Fishburne and Robert Duvall are in that movie
Yep.
together. They share a
Marlon
screen.
Brando.
Marlon Brando and Lawrence Fishburne are in the same movie. And then Robert Duvall is in Widows with fucking Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah.
What the shit?
So thinking about all this stuff is insane. So it makes a lot of sense. But in the same breath, I completely understand what you're talking about with like, he's in Bug's Life. Bro, what the fuck? The little kid from this movie's in a movie where Kevin Spacey's a bad grasshopper.
Yep.
Like, he was in the second fucking CGI film by Pixar ever.
Yep.
What the shit?
It's
That's
insane.
not allowed. He's a fucking little kid in a black and white film. Like,
Yes.
he's supposed to not exist by the time Bug's Life comes
I
out.
think it's incredibly cool that things like this still happen.
I'm really excited that like as time goes on and we keep watching these, we're slowly going to become more and more connected with people we know and things we
Yes.
know.
And you know what else is interesting is the more and more we've done this, we've connected more with older actors who we didn't really know.
Right.
You know,
and
they
like
keep popping up and we're like, oh, that guy's great.
if you go back to like Wings, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's been dead for a century. This woman also the same. Like
But
nobody
they didn't do
nobody's-
anything after the silent era.
You're right. Like it's not connected to anything else we'll see later or
Yeah.
have seen. Whereas like we're starting to get those inklings of like this guy is in that.
We're gonna watch another Laurence Olivier. No, he won a couple times.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We're watching Hamlet.
Yes,
yeah,
we are.
He won a couple times.
That's this
and
decade.
He's been nominated a ton, so we'll talk about him for
I'll
the
be
next 10,
honest,
15
I
years.
get him mixed up with Peter O'Toole because Peter O'Toole is Lawrence of Arabia.
Yep, he is.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Also, that's a fucking milestone episode that I'm looking forward
I'm
to.
so
Lawrence
excited.
of
Me
fucking
too.
Arabia.
And we
so
gotta watch
excited.
Alec Guinness.
Yep.
I have to cut off the statement because we already know.
He's going to wear a face that is not white.
Yeah, it's not even the first time that's happened.
Woo! this very show, it's not the
God,
first
I
time.
love when that comes up because we all just go, ah!
Ah,
Dude, every single time we go, no.
oh god.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Ah,
but yeah.
blatant racism.
Guys,
On that
we stopped
note-
talking about this movie 10 minutes ago.
We did.
So I
I did that with Rebecca too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one sucked. This movie, I think overall, I think we all liked it, right?
Yep.
I
Yeah,
actually
absolutely.
enjoyed myself. I'll start off because I normally don't. I think it is good, but not great. If it kept its thematic messaging throughout and didn't trail a little bit and didn't have those moments where I felt like it really lulled in 2 of the 3 themes that it was really trying to hit home. I thought it would have been a little bit stronger. I didn't get like a huge acting performance out of any of these guys. No Clark Gable, you know.
It was all good, but there was no.
Yeah, it was all
There's
solid,
no wow moment.
but there's no wow moment. I agree.
You know.
I'm gonna give it a 7. I was leaning a little bit more towards an 8, but if they kept the themes, I would have given it an 8 instead.
You know what's really funny? I'm very similar to you, but I'm gonna give it an 8. And again, it would have been a 9. It's so close to being a 9. It should be a 9. I'm giving it an 8, which is still a really high, strong score because I really did love this movie, and I absolutely would watch it again, which is what I usually like to say about my movies that I like. I think everything here that's thematically relevant slaps and is really on par, whether it's the religious allegories and stuff like that, or whether you want to talk about the classism, obviously. It all hits really strong, and I'd highly recommend it, and it's better than, over half of the Best Picture nominees.
Easily.
So
Yeah.
far.
I agree. So for me personally, anything above a 6 is worth rewatching. This movie, absolutely worth rewatching. So I'm wavering between 7 and 8 because there's a lot of stuff in this film that kind of goes nowhere.
Yep.
I think for now, I'm gonna say 7 with the
Understandable.
option to rewatch and give it an 8.
That's
know?
understandable.
Like I'm making a stock
Yeah.
trade. I'm gonna get some options on this. You
And
know?
one of the things for me, I think 5 and 6 are. It was okay, but I wouldn't really want to watch it again.
That's exactly what that is for me. Is like
Yeah.
this was an okay film. I have no desire to ever rewatch it.
I think 7 or 8 is like, oh, this is a good movie, and then like 9 is, wow, this is great, and then 10 is, The Lighthouse, masterpiece, like shit like that.
yeah. So with that, boys, we have officially watched the greatest movie ever made.
Oh, guys, we can compare to Citizen Kane. We didn't do
way
that.
better.
Honestly, I think this movie is solid. Citizen Kane has a really, really good acting performance. I will give it that. It does have like that really, really fucking solid performance. I think this movie narratively isn't as, I'll say, a little bit pretentious. I think this has a lot to say. It stands the test of time for sure. I'd have to rewatch. I rewatch Citizen Kane. I'm gonna kill myself.
That's what I was gonna get at
So
here. 'Cause, like, I know I'm going right after you, but like the thing is, like, I barely remember Citizen.
Yeah, I
because
would
watched
watch it again. I watched it like 2-3 years ago.
So I'll say this. As someone who really does remember Citizen Kane, it's about a boy who grows up with no one, and at the end of his life, he has no one. And Rosebud is the sled.
Yep.
Which, if you know the twist going in, it's the dumbest thing.
Because the film isn't about the twist.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. It's not only if you know the twist.
Yeah.
The reason, the problem there, to go on a bit of a rant that has nothing to do with How Green With My Valley. The problem is, if you know the twist in Citizen Kane, you think the twist is the point.
Yes.
It's not.
No.
It's the life and death of this guy.
Yep.
And like how, even though he had all this power and all this influence, he still at the end of the day had no one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a semi-biopic, and it was kind of written in spite of the real life dude who it's based on, because Mank got kicked out of his inner circle,
Yep.
as you know, because you watched Mank.
Yep.
Sadly.
Hit film Mank.
Hit film Mank.
Film Mank.
Got him.
What you're saying is, if you know the twist going in, it's not as good. And I think the reason for that is because you're expecting the twist to be the point. The Rosebud is the sled. It doesn't matter in the scope of the film. It only matters at the end of the film for you to, it humanizes the main character right at the end.
Yes.
That's all it does.
Yep.
It's not a plot twist.
Because he's
It's-
kind of an asshole throughout
he
most
is
of
an
the
asshole.
movie.
No, that's the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Is he's an asshole. You know, he's an asshole. He's unlikable. He pushes his wife to do all these things because he wants to make her famous and ride off her success, but she doesn't
Yep.
want to do these things and she's not good at it. That's just one part of it. Then there's also his newspaper business where he's like a yellow journalist and he's just printing tabloids basically.
Yep.
He's doing anything to have power and influence, but what he really wants is something intimate, but he can't have that because of who he is.
And what he keeps doing is also part of the reason he can't.
And that's why, in that aspect, that's why Rosebud is important, because that was the one thing he had in his life was when he was a kid and he would go sledding. That's when the world made sense to him.
Yes.
But that is not the point of the
Yes.
film. It's just a humanizing thing right at the end that makes you kind of reflect on this
Yeah.
guy and be like,
Maybe he wasn't all so bad, even though he was.
he was. It's more to be like, maybe he didn't have to be this way.
Yes.
That's the point of Rosebud.
Yeah.
That being said, this movie's better.
Yeah, I agree. Actually.
Definitively, without hesitation.
Yep.
So with that is How Green Was My Valley, the greatest film ever made.
Yep. All time.
8 out of
And-
10,
and
7
now-
out of 10. Not even my favorite best picture.
The best
No.
film of all time. 7s and 8s. That's
Guys,
amazing.
we have one more thing before we announce our next one.
Yes, we do.
And it's that Mutiny on the Bounty is the best one, and Rebecca's the worst one.
I'll tell you that actually It Happened One Night is the best one, and Cavalcade is the worst one.
Look, mine hasn't changed in like 7. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Go watch a different video.
quiet in Cavalcade.
Ah,
for everybody.
spoiling it. Got
It
him.
hasn't changed since we watched
Just change
Cavalcade. No,
Are you guys excited for what we're gonna watch
just
next week?
arbitrarily
What are
change
we
a
watching
ranking.
next week?
Well, I'll tell you what we're watching next week.
What,
It
just
is-
have an opinion that is different about the movies we're watching.
what a fire roast.
But Green Lantern is the best one, and then
Exactly. You're enjoying Green Lantern.
Speed Racer, and then
Van Helsing, yeah. So we're watching the 15th Best Picture winner ever next week. It is, of course, Miss Minerva. So if you don't want to get spoiled for that, go check it out before the next show, and we'll see you then.
Miss what?
Minerva.
I think it's Minerva.
Minerva.
We'll find out next week.
Mud, why did you see this?
The poster.
Okay.
That is a large joint. Bring it back on screen, Snoop.
And everyone's just watching and they're into it.
He's still like a hobo who looks like a fucking drifter who's
This
never
is
showered.
like a 14-year-old's like idea of what sex is like.
Why is he dressed like Guy Fieri?
Guy Fieri's name means Guy Fiery, which is what he is.
Is he touching his
They're
wiener?
touching
Yeah.
dicks.
This movie's not funny.
No, it's not.
Is it supposed to be funny?
Yes.
Is that comedy?
This is a comedy.
What?
I'm gonna have to call the suicide hotline after this one.
Like-
You guys remember when you were happy that this movie was only an hour and a half?
No.
I think it's an hour and a half too long.
I don't remember when I was happy anymore.